And already got one person on here. All right. Out here in the shop. Shop Talk Tuesday. We're going to do some shop talking and some work at the same time. What's up? Little bitty hammer. So as more people get on here, we'll talk about what we're talking about today. So I figured that today, I'm working on the guard for this big old knife here. I figured I would do a live stream Shop Talk Tuesday while I'm working on it. What's up? From the UK? That's awesome, man. What time is it in the UK right now? What's up, Kevin? What's up, Axeman? What's up, Blacksmith? Candy? So 1:05 a.m. That's whenever I watch YouTube as well, so I understand that. Middle of nowhere, so I can't hang out. But hey, thanks for coming by. Thanks for saying what's up. So, of course, I originally was going to do a different type of guard for this particular build, but I'm going with the D guard. I'm going to explain that as we're kind of working on this. Let me get it back out here. So right now what I'm doing to this is I am tapering it. This is just a piece of 1/4 inch thick by 1 inch wide, mild steel. I'll tell you why I'm tapering it here in just a second. So this, of course, is going to be the guard. It's going to look like that when it's all said and done. What I'm doing right now is I'm actually tapering from, so basically the top part, this is going to be the widest point. The back part is going to be the thinnest point. So that right there is going to be what this turns into. Now, I wanted it to taper because I feel like it's going to look better as it swoops around to the back, just having that gradual taper. I think it's going to look cool. Of course, this isn't going to be the actual width of it. It's going to be, ground down a little bit. You'll still be able to see all the forged texture and everything on the inside and the outside of it. But I figured while I was working on this, I would talk to y'all. And it's nice in here right now. Typically, whenever I try and do these forging kind of live streaming things, the phone gets too hot, but outside it's like 70 degrees, and I'm pumping that 70-degree air in here, the big fan. So hopefully it keeps everything cool. It's actually pretty nice in here right now. So I'm doing this guard here because originally what I was going to do is I was going to do like the 300 sword kind of guard and pommel. And then I was talking to a couple of people, and they said that with the way that I do my videos, typically whenever I'm showing somebody how to do something, I'm not showing them how to do the same thing over and over and over again, unless it's like heat treating or stuff like that. They were like, you're already committed to making a 300 sword, why not wait to do that guard and pommel whenever you actually make the sword, so you're not doing it twice. And I was thinking, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. And then I had somebody suggest a D-guard, and I watched a couple of videos of people making D-guard buoys, and I was like, yeah, I want to do that. And I think that that really, really, really works with this knife. Now, of course, this is just a temporary handle. It's just a handle that it was a cutoff from a hammer, and that's not the handle that's going to be on here. This is just a placeholder because that's how long a piece of material is going to be, and I figured that worked out real well because it let me decide exactly how I wanted the D-guard shaped. So that works out real well. It's pretty well fitting for a temp handle. So one of the things that I need to do now is I need to actually do this little curl up here. I know that I only need about 1.5 inches of that. If I go any further, then I'm going to lose some of my flat. I'll tell you about that here in just a second. So rock that forward just a hair. So just like that right there. So just like that right there. Our little tilt forward that's going to be at the top there. We've got that. Now the next step is going to be doing the hook back. So doing, well, that part right there where it actually comes back around. So the first part of that D, got to go ahead and curve that. Now I went ahead and I drew out that D guard on the anvil here, so I know what profile I'm trying to achieve. So as I'm doing this, I'm going to be coming in here and I'm going to be checking it to make sure it's good. You might be asking yourself, should I be double checking it on there? Yeah, probably. But what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to forge the D guard because I can actually drill all the holes and everything after the fact, and I can adjust it. So let's say I need to slightly move the material here and there. I can easily do that without heating it back up. Once I get the initial shape, then I'm good to just sit there and modify it and bend it. I'm trying to get the shape, and then I can go ahead and drill the holes, because all I got to do on my drill press is, if it's a U like this, just drill through the top, flip it over, drill through the bottom. Pretty simple. So I don't have to like sit here the whole entire time and drill the holes here and then try and keep that perfect across here while I'm doing this. What I'll end up doing is do the profile, and if I need to flatten anywhere or do any of that stuff, I can. And then all I got to do is just drill those holes through the area here and then back here. And I love a good through tang, but I've already got the tang all set up right there. It's nice and straight. Like I said, a little template right there, so I know where to drill through, do all that stuff, and my little temporary handle. That fits on there real well for just a little temp handle. Have I decided what handle material? Do y'all want to see the handle material early, before the video actually releases? Y'all are gonna like it. I think y'all are really gonna like it. So I got this material from my good friend Don. He's on the podcast with us. He sent me this, and it is beautiful. This guy right here. So pecan, stabilized pecan. That is what the handle is going to be. So that should be a nice contrast with the steel being this color, and then we're going to cold blue the guard So the D-guard's gonna be cold blued, it's gonna be nice and dark. And then we're gonna have this material, plus we're gonna have copper caps. So there's gonna be a copper cap on the front and the back. And this is gonna peen over on top of that copper cap. I think it's gonna look real good. What's up, Jason? So let's go ahead, look on here, see exactly where I need to pull this back to. So we're good there. I need to start rocking it. Alright, cool. So, now, so like I said, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm matching it up to what I drew on the anvil. So I have that profile drawn on there, and I can match it up as I go down. What's up, Chip? How you doing? Abba, Labra, Ding Dang. Look at that. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about during this, while we're actually going through and forging this D-guard, more or less what inspires y'all. So of course, whenever I'm making the knives and I'm doing all that stuff, a lot of it comes from my head, a lot of it, the designs and everything, but I still get inspired by other makers to change what I'm doing. And I'll tell you, one of the things that's made it hard over the past, I would say a couple of months, is I keep getting more and more and more inspired to make different knives, and a lot of them become more complicated, and more complicated. So trying to stick to a schedule and make these knives has not been super easy, but it's just because I want to push myself further each time I go through and I make a new knife, especially for the channel. If I'm making something for me, it doesn't really take long to make, but if I'm making something for the channel, it automatically is like 5 times longer. So as soon as you have to start setting up camera angles and lighting and all that stuff, it makes it's a pain in the ass when it comes to trying to make a knife, because you have to think through all of that. And is your camera focused on the right spot? It's really a pain in the butt. I am still cool with doing it because I enjoy the whole knife making process. So for me, I know that I enjoy the heck out of this, and I'm going to continue to make them and do these things because I just think it's an awesome experience to be able to show y'all what I'm doing while I'm doing it and bring y'all into the shop. See that right there? So this is the first part of our guard. That's the part that's going to go towards the front right here. So you've got that right there. And then we're going to go ahead and scoop up this back section. So first part of a D-guard, my first ever D-guard. So whenever you're watching this, some of this is just me kind of winging it into what I think makes sense and moving material. But I mean, a lot of us do that, right? You know, not everybody's 100% expert in knife making that watch these videos. So 3 times YouTubers that got me into. Those are all valid ones. Myself, I think I'm pretty valid. Alien Knives and Outdoors 55, yes. Yep, so whenever I first met Aaron, it's also the same thing with like Dennis Tyrell. Whenever I first met those guys, it was cool because they were making good knives and their channels were really, really, really low subscribers, but they were doing great. And then they started doing more of the educational stuff like I was doing, and it just made an amazing experience because whenever I first set out to do this, I understood that my channel was not going to go super viral because I'm doing more of the education side of it and less of the just playing music and letting the video play through, no talking, all that. Those videos do really well because people overseas and people in countries that don't speak English are the ones that watch those channels the most. And whenever they have somebody speaking English the whole entire time, it would be like someone speaking Chinese the entire time. You wouldn't understand that damn word that they're saying, so they're just talking the entire time, and it's just gibberish. So I understood that I wasn't going to have that crazy viral ability because I'm doing more educational stuff, but I like this part of my channel. I like talking, teaching, doing these type of things because I feel like most channels that are out there right now, not most, but a good portion of them, if they do the education thing, it's behind a paywall. So in order for you to learn the stuff that they're teaching you, they teach you this much free on YouTube and then this much behind a paywall. And do I have a member section? Yes. That's more for people to help me out, and they have access to me whenever they want. You can easily call me, video chat with me. I leave it on there, so if you're part of the members section, you actually can video call me pretty much whenever you feel like it, and we can go over stuff. But my goal was to be able to teach everything that I'm learning and everything that I know to everyone without y'all having to pay somebody for it or pay $2,000 or some random crap like that. You just get to come here, we get to talk, and if I can teach you something, I'll teach you something. All right, let's go ahead and do the back section of this bend. So that's there. I'm going to start bending it about right there to get that main curve. That's important stuff here. So, gotta adjust it a little bit more. Again, this is my first time doing this, so a lot of it is trial and error. Hopefully not as much error. The joys of this being mild still, I don't have to worry about a whole bunch of you know, I don't have to worry about it being one of those things where I'm going to be heat treating this, so forging it too cold versus too hot, whatever it may be. On the next heat, I should be able to get that actual curve that I want. Whenever I first did the curve, I did it too far back, so it would have made the guard too long. So I had to shift that down a little bit, put a new bend in it. So now, whenever I do this next forge, it should bend everything kind of back into place where I want it. And then I can go ahead and let it cool, I think. See how that goes. So, like I said, when it comes down to like the way that I'm inspired to make different knives, I'll watch fellow YouTubers, I'll watch other makers, I'll see what they're doing, and then I will do my version of something kind of like theirs, or I'll just make something completely different than what everybody else is making right now. You'll kind of notice that as soon as one person makes a buoy, 7 other YouTubers make buoys. One person makes a dagger, 7 other YouTubers make a dagger. One person makes an axe, 7 other YouTubers make an axe. It's just kind of how it works, and then you're just watching everybody do the same stuff. I purposely try to not do that. Most of the videos on people making the stuff that I'm doing, like a D-guard, something like that, they're like 6 months old or a year-old videos. The knife, or the thing, it's not technically a knife, the thing I'm making for the Samurai Challenge, there's 2 videos on YouTube. 2. And both of them are a few years old, people making them, and they're not making it the way that I'm making it. So, mine will be the only video like it on YouTube, which is pretty cool. Let's go ahead, bend this the rest of the way. But I try to keep it that way. I try to have something different for y'all each time I do one of these videos. That's good there. I do appreciate every single time someone says that I help them learn something. D-guard. Let's just see if I need to modify it a little bit. So I think I need to make it just a hair wider. So that's what I'm going to do. Tell you one thing, my forge is not exactly built for something like this. Let's see here. I know it might seem a dumb question, but you can't lock in a vise and then. I can do that, but when it comes to my vise, if I had a post leg vise, I would go ahead and do that, but I don't really have, like smooth jaws for it. So if I was to put it in that vise and bend it, what would end up happening is the ridiculous, that pattern that's right there would get pressed into it. And because I'm not taking and grinding all of that stuff smooth, you're going to see the forge texture on it. I can't have that, so I have to forge it. So if I had a post leg vise and I had smooth jaws like you see on a post leg vise, which I am getting here soon, then I would bend it that way. But yeah, if I do it in that, it's going to mess it up. I only know that because I've done that and I've messed stuff up. So I kind of learned from that. Now, if I was doing it cold, if I want to adjust it or modify it a little bit, I could easily do that. But then I wouldn't be learning what I could do with my anvil and my hammer. Know what I mean? Especially when you do something like that right there. And you correct your mess up that easy. Right length. Put it there. We'll square out that just a hair. So now, all I need to do is come in here and bend this section in a little bit more, and we should be pretty much good to go there. Yeah, I think we can do that. So, like I said, I know that part of this is interesting, part of it's probably not. But I have a lot of people that ask me questions about my profiles, questions about different design choices that I make and things like that. And a lot of that comes out whenever I look at, video games or stuff that I think is really, really cool, but people don't typically make, or materials that people don't typically put together. I love stuff like that. I love color contrast. I think of this as art as much as its function. So the big thing for me is, can it be a wall hanger, and can it cut through a tree? Can it check both those boxes? If someone wants to just put it on a shelf, is it beautiful enough for that? Is my fit and finish awesome? Are the textures that I use, the materials that I use, are they beautiful enough that it just makes a cool thumbnail that goes on to Google, and people sit there and go through all the pictures and they're like, that's badass, that's cool. Do I check that box, and can I cut through a tree with it? If I can do both of those, I feel like I've actually, was successful in what I created. One of the things that you'll see in this video, whenever I release it, someone asked me about the fact that I quenched this and I only tempered the spine and ricasso back. I didn't temper the whole entire blade. They asked about that, did that make that to where the edge is super brittle, that it's going to break and shatter if it hits something hard? Will it shear away from the spine? Something like that. And no. So whenever it came out of the quench, it came out between 60 and 63 hardness. Today, and then I blew back the spine and brought the spine down to in between 50 and 55 HRC. So today it dropped off my workbench, fell 3 feet, tipped down on the ground. Okay, tipped down. That's what it looks like. That's after falling and hitting the tip straight into concrete. What did it do? That little bitty guy right there. And it put a hole in my concrete. So, tip down, 3 feet. Did it hurt it? Not one bit. Not one bit. So, there's something to be said about the way you do your process. Yes, I know if you watch 10 YouTube videos back to back, people making knives. It's 400 degrees, 2 hours times 2. No matter what. They check it with they check the hardness with a Nicholson file, and they throw it in the oven, 400 degrees, for 2 hours times 2 every single time, like clockwork. You go watch 3 videos right now, that's what they're going to do. Which is fine. It really is. It's just not necessary to do the same wood every single time you make a knife, because that's not the way it works. Different hardnesses, different processes require different recipes. If you're trying to achieve a certain hardness with 5160, you need to do a certain heat treat with a certain temper. A certain amount of time, a certain amount of heat, and you'll get the hardness that you're shooting for. If you do the same exact thing every single time, it's not always going to be perfect. Because let's say you quenched it, but your oil wasn't the perfect temperature, everything wasn't perfect, you didn't get the perfect heat, and let's say you were at 65 HRC going into the temper. Your goal is to have a 58 to 60 HRC after temper. But you quenched it, you heated it up in a forge, quenched it in peanut oil or canola oil, and then you put it in a toaster oven to be tempered. There's a lot of variances that happen there. So if you're not testing it with hardness files, which are kind of, you know, they're good, they're better than nothing, but if you don't know that you're above 65 hardness and you tempered it at 400 degrees for 2 hours times 2, you're going to temper it further back than you might want. You might temper it down to 55 HRC. You might have only needed a 275 degree temper for 1 hour or 2 hours. You might have needed a 325 degree temper for 2 hours. There's a science that goes into all of that, because you are changing that structure as you're doing all of this process. So it's not always going to be the same exact thing unless you're using a heat treat oven, you are using knife oil to quench, and then you are tempering in an oven that is meant for knives. If you do all those steps, then it's going to be the same thing every single time. Boom, 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 boom. But whenever you're doing a forge, canola oil, peanut oil, that you're having to heat to 120 degrees and make sure that you hopefully get it to 120 and not 155 or 85 degrees, and you're putting it in an oven that's a toaster oven, those vary in heat very, very, very much. You might put it at 400, it might only go up to 375, then peak at 425, come back down to 375, peak at 425, because it's trying to make it 400 degrees. That's what it does. It heats up, then it turns the coil off. Then it heats up, then it turns the coil off. So just because you put it at 400 doesn't mean that's what it's going to be. But again, the whole point behind doing those processes is to achieve a particular goal. So if you are at the right hardness for this, the reason why I blued the spine back, now I'm going to tell you something. I could have tempered it at like 100 degrees for an hour if I wanted to just go ahead and temper it and have that process going. I just couldn't do 400. But for me, the edge was the hardness that I wanted. I achieved that. All I needed to do was make it sure that the spine, the ricasso area and all that were not brittle. So I glued those back with the torches and brought those down to where they were softer. What's up, Pinto? I'm going to be using the pinto sauce in a little off-camera project that I'm working on. Let's see here. Different uses require different hardnesses, 1,000%. And then, if I'm honest, all knives are made. I just edge quench. I just want to say somewhat soft. Yep. Hey, edge quenching is perfectly fine. Differential heat treat, fantastic. They've been doing samurai swords like that for longer than forever. So yeah, you're good there. What are we talking about? Kind of heat treating and the fact that, you know, there are specifics that you need to do and that you need to think about what you're trying to achieve within it. So I kind of went on a little rant, Pinto. You and I have been known to go on a little rant here and there, haven't we? Have we gone on a few rants? You and me? Yes, we go on the rants. So right now, I'm going through, working on a D-guard. Just trying to make sure everything lines up with how I want it to be. I think we might have got it. There we go. We have our D-guard. Now, like I said, one of the things that I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to be cutting off this back section right here so that I can separate it into its actual handle, and then I will massage certain pieces as we start putting it on the knife. So this area right here, I might massage that back a little bit, make sure it's perfectly straight and at the perfect angle that my transition from my well, let's show you. So the transition from the ricasso down into that tang, with this one, it's actually slightly angled. It's slightly angled. It's not perfectly parallel to the, or perpendicular to the spine. It's more even with the plunge line because of the way that I wanted this to be tilted and the handle to run even with the spine. You'll see that whenever I actually do the whole everything goes together, how everything flows. It's huge for me. You know how I am. Y'all know how I am when it comes to ergonomics and everything like that. I'm going to go ahead and put this back in the forge, let it come up to temp, and then let it cool slow. Is it necessary to do that with mild steel? No, I'm still going to do it. So when it comes to like the ergonomics and everything like that, and how a knife build flows, I want everything to match up. Now remember, this is just a temp handle. This isn't the exact profile of it, but I want everything to flow. Everything has to have a nice flow to it. I want the point to be a certain point. So like, if I was to right now take my straight edge and go from here to here, or just to give y'all an idea of what I'm talking about here, instead of just saying it, explaining it. So you can see it right on the tip, okay? And then we go all the way down through the center of the tang, right there. It splits that tang in half. So from tip to the end of the tang is perfectly straight all the way down. So where the center of this tang is, that's the center of the tip. So whenever you take this and you were to plunge it into something, that tip is going to be what makes the most sense. Same thing with slicing through all of that stuff. I wanted it to be I wanted it to be a stabbing, fighting knife. And so that's what I ended up doing. I didn't kick everything down or do all of that. This has a nice, straight, streamlined flow to it. And that was a big thing for me. It's huge for me to make sure that everything flows real nice. Good night from Kazakhstan. See you later, Chip, if you're logging out. Rants are good. Beer rants are better. Yeah, they are. So when it boils down to it, whenever I'm thinking through the ergonomics and the flow of a build, it needs to make sense. Again, because I want it to be able to be used for its intended purpose. If it's gonna ever need to be used for that particular thing. So I'm not saying somebody needs to stab somebody with that, but let's say you were out in the woods and you needed to fight a bear. And that happened to be the only thing you had with you. I don't know. It's going to work how it's supposed to work. That's for sure. But a lot of my design choices are what makes sense within that particular build, at least I think. Or Bigfoot. You can't fight a Bigfoot. You're going to make Chip sad. If y'all didn't know this from his little picture next to his name, old Shegman Knives, Chip Carlisle is the guy that runs our podcast, the Knives Templar podcast. He is a Bigfoot aficionado, a Bigfoot nut. He has seen the Bigfoot, met the Bigfoot, heard the Bigfoot, walked with the Bigfoot. He's a Bigfoot. He's not very big, but he thinks he's a Bigfoot. I don't know if he thinks he's a Bigfoot. He doesn't have big feet either. Not much about him is Bigfoot, except for the fact that he loves Bigfoot. So, but anyways, if y'all haven't listened to any of the podcasts, y'all definitely should. We have a lot of cool knife makers and awesome people that go on there. We have people that have one forged in fire. We have people that are the people that write the rule books for like knife maker guilds and stuff like that. They have great information. I try and talk here and there. And we like to give some info plus have fun. So if you haven't watched or listened to the podcast, you definitely should. And one thing that I should tell y'all is by the end of this year, I will have my own podcast as well. I'm going to be doing more live stream than the type of podcast that we do. Whenever I do my podcast, it will be live streamed. So you'll get to watch it in real time, then also watch it again later if you wanted to do that. But I'm actually building or redoing my 12x12 with that in mind. So I'm going to have all my crazy builds behind me, and we're going to talk about knife making stuff. We're going to talk about what's going on in the knife making community. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things whenever I do that. I'm going to do a weekly podcast, and it should be a good, informative podcast. It should be fun, everything like that. So I think y'all will like that. Let's see here. I found a Bigfoot track. At least it looked like one. Definitely not a track. I recognize anyways. Yeah. That's a big freaking bolo knife? Yes. This is not small. So style is actually made for slashing more than stabbing. Yep. And handle significant, usually slightly curved down. And some of them, you will see that. You will see the curve down on that. The reason why I didn't do that on this is because it's going to have a D-guard on it. It's not going out of your hand anywhere. So you can stab with it, fight with it, and chop with it. Let me go ahead and pull this out of here real quick. Yeah, if I wasn't doing a D-guard, I would actually, or I wasn't going to be doing a guard and a pommel or D-guard, it would have had a slight curve to it, like it was one of my choppers. Pull this out of the forge, let that cool. I can actually get it to sit still. There we go. Okay, turn that off. So, typically, yes, I would have it curved just like I would do a kukri or something like that. I would have that on the back side of it so that you could swing it and not risk it flying out of your hand. But because this is going to have the D-guard, which I looked up bolos with D-guards, and they do exist. But to me, I feel like that is just a awesome setup. I think more bolos should have a D-guard. Because once this is on there, once you have your hand in this, that's not going anywhere. Your hand is locked into that area right there because it's not going to slip past here. Now, of course, it won't be a paper guard, but I feel like that just works so well because the bulkiness here offsets the bulkiness here. And that's one of the reasons why, okay, so if you look at a lot of bolos, they don't have a ricasso and a heel like this. A lot of them have the ricasso area is almost even with the heel of the blade. Some of them are fully even with it. This actually comes down and tapers a little bit more. This has more of a ricasso of like a buoy right there. So that's a little bit different than what you would typically see on that. So it was my play on it, my flair on a traditional knife was kind of combining buoy characteristics with a bolo, and then of course definitely with a D-guard. You could go to war with this thing, or you can chop down trees, or reeds, or bushes, or whatever you want to do. Let's see here. Y'all too fast. How'd you get the tang flat? So how do you? Okay. There's a couple of things there. When it comes to forging your bevels flat, a lot of that is time and patience and paying attention to what your hammer does, getting really comfortable with your hammer blows and what heats you need to have the steel at for certain steps in the forging. So again, everybody thinks that you have to have it super hot to forge. If you're planishing, you don't let the steel get as hot. We're going for a red to a dull red, to almost gray, whenever you're planishing, because you want your hammer blows to smooth, not dent. So whenever you're thinking through the planishing phase, which is what I do whenever I get my bevels super flat on my forged to finish knives that just have the sharpened edge and the bevels are completely forged, that comes into you're doing your planishing, you're smoothing, you're not compressing steel, you're just smoothing bumps. Okay, so you're going to do that. I typically use one of these little auto body hammers right here to planish. Very comfortable with this. I did auto body for a very long time. Had that hammer for I think like 26 years. So it's thinking about your heats and stuff like that. When it comes to grinding them, another patience and time. So for the tang, you'll be able to see how I did the tang in the video when it releases next week on Tuesday to get everything like that. But all I had to do was remove a little bit of material. I forged it flat, so I really just needed to do my step down. You can see that slight step down all the way around there on the sides and everything. So what that's going to make it do is whenever I put this on the little medallion that's going to go on the front there, it's going to rest on the front of it. So I'm not having to worry so much about how, you do want to worry about it, but how you file the hole that everything's going to go through. Because the way this is, that whole entire ricasso will sit on top of this. So you don't have any gapping. It's absolutely amazing. It's a cool little trick that I learned from Dennis and Aaron with A-Lee Knives and Tyrell Knife Works. Saw them do that, and I was like, I'm absolutely doing that on pretty much all my hidden tanks. Let's see here. Ian Nilsson, Jason Pinto, Drew, it's Bolo looks good so far. Hell yeah. Let's see here. Brong knives. Yep, I agree with that. I've been thinking about doing one of those. They are a little bit more leaf accented, I guess you could say. Trying to decide a coffin handle or if you're going to use some fancy fluting with that wood you showed. So you'll see. I'm going to end up, I'm not doing this little guy right here. I'm going to be doing a slight flare into the center. So there'll be like a facet coming up to the center on that. And it'll look really cool. It'll grip real well. Kind of split your fingers just a little bit. But it's going to be a nice looking little profiled handle. With a war with Isengard and the trees though. I'm going to hit the auto body next door and get me a hammer. You should, absolutely. Thanks for forging a full tang. Keep it, okay, yep. Not grinding while tapering the tang. Yeah. So whenever I think about this stuff, it's one of those things where you want to keep as much material as possible. If you're going through and you're doing this, the whole point behind forging is you're getting everything out of that section of steel. You're getting everything out of it. If you're going to forge something, you want to forge as close to your profile and your end result as possible, because that's what that's going to do is it's going to let you keep the rest of the steel that you would have just cut away for another knife. So it's huge for me to go ahead and forge as much of this stuff as absolutely possible so that I'm sacrificing the least amount of steel possible. Forging, and let's just put it this way, knife making, typically the average knife maker that's just making knives, they're hoping to get a break-even type of budget back. You know, they want to be able to make enough knives to possibly sell them, to possibly recuperate the cost for their 2x72s, drill presses, bandsaws, stuff that you got, you know, your propane, your grinding stuff, all your abrasives. You're hoping that you can just break even. And what's up from Croatia? You're hoping that you can break even. So if you are, there's nothing wrong with stock removal. I'm going to start that off right off the bat. Me saying this is not me saying that if you do stock removal, you're less of a knife maker. If you're making knives that are heat treated properly and have good ergonomics, you're a knife maker. I don't care if you do stock removal. I don't care if you do forging. Either one of those, end result, knife that's good, that will last somebody a lifetime, that has good ergonomics, that's comfortable for somebody, that is a knife. You are a knife maker. Congratulations. Now, with that being said, if you're forging, you're going to save yourself a lot of money because you're not going to be throwing away all of the steel that you cut away. Now, there are certain steels that don't do well with forging. If you're using a lot of stainless steel, a lot of those are going to be stock removal knives. You're not really going to be there forging that particular material. You are stock removal. If you're doing 1080, any of the 10 series, or 5160, 15 and 20, I've seen some people forge 26C3. I've seen people forge AEBL, like a few different things like that. But when it boils down to it, it's one of those things where if you're making a knife, you're making a knife. If you're forging, you're saving yourself money because you are maximizing the amount of steel. If you're doing stock removal on those 10 series, 5160s, steels that can be forged, then you are throwing money in the trash whenever you are throwing away the scraps. Steel is not super expensive, but it's not cheap either. So if you can get used to forging, then I would suggest doing it. I chose to start forging because I wanted to further my knowledge within knife making. I wanted to push the boundaries of what I could do. And by the way, ADCRV2, ADCRV2. That's what this was actually forged out of. So, has that been forged out of ADCRV2? Was that one of my other ones? No, this one was not ADCRV2. This one's 5160. This was the one that I folded that leaf spring out. I've made a lot of knives lately. A lot of knives. So when it boils down to it, this stuff, oh, I know it's ADCRV2, that thing over there that y'all can't see yet. That's ADCRV2 that I'm forging out of. So when it comes to the saving material, you want to go ahead and try to forge and do all that stuff. Again, I do it because I enjoy the experience of forging. I enjoy being able to take a hammer and an anvil and forge an entire knife out of something that was not knife shaped. Being able to do that, talk about instant gratification. It's not instant because it takes a lot of time and it's a lot of strain on your arm and muscles and stuff like that. But the gratification that you get being able to take a piece of steel, and remember, okay, I'm going to show y'all something. This right here was made out of one of these. That was that. Okay? I'm just saying, being able to forge, you cannot stock remove that into that. No matter how good you are at stock removal, this does not turn into this with stock removal. Now, you could be amazing at forging, but if you're not good at stock removal, it's also not going to look like that, because the bevels in here, that's all stock removal. Now, I did forge in the bevels, so I didn't have to do as much work, but you need to be able to do stock removal in order to have nice, clean, straight bevels that look awesome. You got to do both in order to make good knives. Well, you don't have, again, you still don't have to forge unless you want to turn that into that, but you do have to be able to stock remove. See here, greetings from the Panda, Pacific Northwest. How you grind the handle with D-guard in the way? Yep, you finish the handle first, then assemble it. That's how all that goes. So basically, just how this is set up here, you have your guard, and then you make sure all that's all good there. But the handle is all separate. So I'll completely profile the handle and have it completely sanded, finished, and everything, then assemble it all. Where are you getting your belts from for your belt grinder? So I get belts from, let's just be real here for a second. I pretty much get most of my belts from Blade Show, or I get sent them by particular brands. A lot of the belts that I have right now currently were free, except for that like 30 pack of 120 that I got from Phoenix Abrasive at Blade Show. So got that from them. But typically you can get them from Phoenix Abrasives, you can get them from Combat Abrasives. It kind of just depends on who you feel comfortable with. There's pros and cons to each. So let's see here, 26C3 and 80C/2 are go-to stills. Both of those are amazing. 26C3 is absolutely awesome, especially for chef's knives. Save all your cutoffs. Use 80C/2, just torture chest on a knife. It came out completely fine. 80C/2 is awesome, man. So TRE, have you started on your Judge's Knife Maker Challenge yet? Tell me you're going with. Could you imagine if I was like Samurai Challenge, Bolo Knife? No. I'm about 99% sure that the thing that I'm making, because I changed my mind again, but I'm actually already starting the forging process on it. I'm 99% sure that no one is going to make the thing that I'm making. I almost guarantee, especially the full thing that I'm making, because when it's all said and done, it's two pieces connected to each other, probably not the way you're thinking, and it's going to look wicked, and it's going to be really, 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 really fun to use. Really fun to use. I cannot wait. So I was thinking about the whole war blade thing, the double-bladed stuff, and all kinds of different things, but then I was thinking through how fun are those things going to be to use. The last double-bladed thing that I did stabbed me several times, because double-bladed things point a blade at you when you're pointing the blade at somebody else. There was a lot of things that went into that. This is going to be a blast to use, so I'm really excited about it. Let's see here. How are you going to clean off the forge scale? Same way I clean off the forge scale on all of these. I do the vinegar soak. If you do the 30% vinegar, you can soak it in there for 12 hours and basically scrub the forge scale off, and then all you have is the cool forge texture that you see right there. So you get all of that, and you'll see all that forge texture on this D-guard, which is going to be really cool. And then I buy my belts from Super Grit. I've never heard of Super Grit. More belts. Is it a pole arm type thing? No, it's not a pole arm. Nope, not a pole arm. Whenever y'all actually see it, you're gonna go, huh? Well, damn, that's cool. Like I said earlier in this live stream, there is only 2 videos on YouTube, okay, of someone making these. And they both made them the exact same way. They both made them using a saw blade. None of them were forged. It's, yep. Whenever y'all see what I'm gonna make and the way that I'm making it, how cool it's gonna be, and what's attached to it, I think y'all are gonna like it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm gonna have a blast using it, and it's gonna make a really cool piece behind me whenever I have the podcast going. Jeff, which one do you prefer, 3 or 7? Looking forward to it. Love the series, fantastic. Yes, and I agree. It's one of those things where having all those YouTubers come together and make the Knife Maker Challenge is just awesome. And one of the judges for this one, of course, is Walter Sorrells. So he's going to be judging. I wish he was competing a little bit in the judges section just to give the judges a run for their money. But he's going to be one of the guest judges. I don't think it would be super fair that a person who literally is like a professional like katana maker, has written books on katanas and how to make them and all that stuff, and that is one of his things that he is absolutely known for, is making katanas. It's kind of cool. I'm a blade tease. Well, for this one right here, I'll show you this. I'll show you this. Just imagine what that's going to be. And you'll probably be wrong. Just imagine it. I'm not going to show you the other side because there's drawing on it. Just imagine what this is going to be. And then whenever you get to see it, you're going to go, that's not what I was thinking it was going to be. So yeah, it's going to be awesome. Let's see here. Got 2 videos on YouTube. So, and the cool thing is, the 2 people that did their videos on it were literally, one person made the video and the other person was like, that's awesome, I want to make that, and they made their version of it, but it was pretty much spot on, the same thing. One's a very small channel, one's a very large channel, and I saw those and I was like, well, thank God that's not the way I'm making mine, so I think it'll be cool. But, you know, I love doing stuff like this. An hour already. Ah, dang. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this video. Now, I do got a question for y'all real quick, because we got 20 people on right now. What topic do y'all want me to go over on the Thursday live stream? Is there any specific thing that y'all want me to talk about? This one was more me showing y'all some of the stuff that's going to be on next week's Shop Talk Tuesday with the forging of this. So it wasn't just me just sitting here talking. Y'all actually got to see some of the stuff, which is how I like doing the live streams, especially on like Shop Talk Tuesdays and stuff like that. Seeing how this is the first one and the only one I've done so far. What do y'all want me to go over on the Shop Talk Tuesday? What do y'all think would be a good topic that I could actually try and explain or clarify within the way that I make knives, or maybe something that you've seen, so that I can actually go through and go, oh, that's this because of this. And to be fair, y'all can go ahead and post it now, or y'all can post it in the comment section after the video ends, and I'll be able to see it no matter what. So it's not something that you have to go through and post all right now. Just think about some ideas, and maybe I'll go ahead and one of those, and we'll see how that goes. I've already got an idea for what I'm going to talk about, but I like to, you know, start off with stuff that y'all like. But guys, it's 1 hour into this. Let's go ahead, end it here. We've got ourselves a little old B-guard out of this. You know, doing good there. Got that done. one step closer to getting this thing finished. Again, whenever y'all see the end result of this Bolo knife, y'all are going to go, that's really cool. And I kind of want to do some of those things. So it's not just going to be a D-guard and a handle. There's going to be other things that go into it. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. And it's going to make for a really good thumbnail. Hand sanding, forging flat tapered tangs, isolating the handle. That's a good topic right there. Well, thank you for coming along, Neil. And thank everybody for actually participating in this. I love it. One of my favorite live streams is whenever y'all talk to each other, y'all talk to me, y'all speak up, and I get to actually read your comments and do all of that. If not, it's just me talking to a camera like I typically do inside the shop. Doing the live streams has been really fresh. It's been really fun because I get to communicate more, and it's not just me in the shop by myself talking to a camera and, you know, being weird. That's for the live. Me in the UK. Out of here. Later. Well, I'm happy you like the live videos. I've had a blast doing them. There I go. Show some love to my other channels. Pizza. Nice, guys. You know what? It's been awesome. Let's go ahead. Let's end it here, and we'll go from there. And thank y'all for being part of the live streams. Like I said, make sure you come back on Thursday. We'll get that done too. All right, let's go ahead and close this thing out.